How does the Democratic Party win again? Who is the candidate they need to win again? What is the message that candidate needs to win again? Donald Trump created a multiracial working class coalition that got him into the White House twice. Now, in order to win the White House back, Democrats need to do some supermajority thinking. Joining me to explain what that is, founder of Searchlight Institute, former Chief of Staff for Senator John Fetterman, and former Deputy Chief of Staff for Senator Harry Reid, Adam Gentleson. Adam, really good to have you.
Thank you for having me, Katie.
Supermajority thinking, what is that?
Supermajority thinking means thinking beyond what it takes to eke out a narrow majority in the Electoral College or in the United States Senate. It means
so not just enough. You want enough to legislate.
That's exactly right. I mean, I think what we want right now is to think about a message that resonates not just with our base and a few swing voters, but a message that resonates with a broad cross-section of the American people that can win anywhere in the country.
What is that message?
Well, I think what it means is getting outside of the liberal box. What Democrats have done is that they've gotten very stuck in a very ideologically rigid box. And they have let themselves get put there by a collection of interest groups and other pressures that they've been under. But it's caused them to lose track of what the American people want. And so the message is very focused on the concrete, everyday problems that people encounter. And it means zeroing in on issues like affordability and the economy. And it means taking a wider lens to cultural issues where Democrats have gotten very out of step with the American people.
When you say wider lens to cultural issues, I'm curious what exactly you're talking about.
Well, I think what Democrats need to do is combine a strong, economically populist message with a little leeway on some issues where they've gotten out of step with the American people. And I think part of this, too, is that we get very academic when we divide issues into economic and cultural. Immigration is an issue that is experienced by many Americans primarily as an economic issue. Climate change is an issue that is experienced by many Americans primarily as an economic issue. Costs go up. And so Americans need to say, look, our focus on some of these issues has detracted from our focus on the everyday kitchen table issues that Americans care about, and we need to get back to that.
You used to work for Harry Reid. It sounds like Harry Reid thinking.
Well, it's definitely informed by my time working for Senator Reid. That's
How so?
Sure.
How so?
Well, when I think back to Senator Reid, I mean, he was the kind of Democrat who could win in a state like Nevada, which has flipped from red to blue many times over the last few years. And he was a heterodox person ideologically. He took a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B. When he was elected to office, he was pro-gun, he was pro-life. At one point, he had a very right-leaning stance on immigration, but he was also very core Democrat when it came to things like expanding the social safety net, protecting Social Security, expanding health care for Americans. We've lost that kind of Democrat in the Senate, and definitely when it comes to nominating presidents.
So a Democrat that doesn't have, are you saying all the Democrats now have to abide by a certain set of orthodoxies, values, policy positions?
That's right. Well, we've gotten very locked in to a rigid orthodoxy. We've got very locked into a certain set of issues that we can't get away from them.
So that's why maybe Democrats aren't winning in Mississippi any longer?
Yeah. I mean, when I worked for Senator Reid in the Senate, we had Democrats in states like Arkansas, Louisiana, North Dakota, Montana. We were able to win in every single state in the country.
So what happened?
What happened is Democrats got locked into this liberal box. They lost this ability to communicate with Americans across ideological lines.
But how did they get into that liberal ideological box?
Well, in the course of the Obama administration, people got very disappointed with the realities of what it meant to govern. And they channeled that disappointment into building up a series of interest groups and advocacy organizations that pushed Democrats to move far to the left across a wide range of issues. And Democrats, really did veer left on just about every issue under the sun since 2008 when Barack Obama was elected with 365 electoral votes. Now they're stuck there and they need to get out and they need to get back to thinking not just about what interest groups want, but what the people in those states want and what they need.
So you're trying to say that if you are a Democrat from New York City, you're not going to be the same sort of Democrat. That's not going to work if you want to be a Democrat from Texas.
That's right.
You have to be a different kind of Democrat, and the party has to allow for varied opinions on not just economic issues, or just mostly on cultural issues, on abortion, on immigration, on
That's right.
transgender people, playing in sports.
That's right. I think Democrats should probably, get more populist on economic issues and, give some leeway and some wiggle room on some cultural issues. And that doesn't mean abandoning their principles. It means opening the tent to people who have different opinions.
You kind of sound like David Brooks when you talk about this, pushing back against special interests. He had a whole article about how the Democratic Party is undergoing a revolution as well. And in order to start winning again, they needed to push back on the special interest groups, as you were just talking about, that have put them into this ideological box.
That's right, because these groups exist to advance narrow interests. They exist to advocate on a single issue. And when they all line up together, what you have is this wall of sound where each of them is pushing Democrats to the left on their own issue, but all together, you have a massive push to the left across all issues.
So who's doing this well in the Democratic Party right now? Anyone?
I think there's a really interesting range of candidates who are doing it well right now. I think you look at Texas and you see a candidate like James Tallarico, who's running as an anti-establishment candidate. You look at Iowa, you see Rob Sand, who's running for governor, running as an independent-minded Democrat with a focus on kitchen table issues. You look up at Maine, where you have a number of candidates. Graham Plattner, who's running with a strong economic populist message and some rightward leans on some other issues. It's a really interesting field we have out there right now, and I think it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out.
Can you get away from the national brand, though? I mean, the Democratic brand right now is in the gutter.
I think you can. I think we've sort of let ourselves use that as an excuse to not try to take different positions. But I think Democrats will be pleasantly surprised at how easy it is to distance yourself from the brand if you're able to take some high-profile stances that differ from the national
What
party.
about if people see the Democratic Party as a party that only believes in one way of thinking? And if you deviate from that way of thinking, then you are seen as somebody that needs to be, for lack of a better word, canceled. And that is still happening online. For instance, Ezra Klein right now is getting hammered by progressives for being. I mean, I saw a video last night about somebody saying that he's just a spokesperson, a mouthpiece for billionaires and capitalism. It feels like the Democratic Party is quick to eat their own.
That's right. And I think part of what we need to realize is that social media is not real life. And so even as Ezra is getting hammered on social media, I think his message is resonating with a lot of people.
So turn off your phone?
Turn off your phone. I mean, that's a great advice no matter what. But I think in this case, if you're trying to get a feel for what voters out in America think, it's great advice.
I think it's interesting, though, that you talk about James Tallarico and others. I mean, I've asked him questions about immigration, and he doesn't seem to have a pretty clear and concise answer to that. And no one really in the Democratic Party that I've spoken to has a clear answer on immigration. The Republicans have a clear answer on it, but the Democrats don't. Is that an issue where there does need to be a national brand, a national idea, a national message? Here is what the Democratic Party stands for if you put us back into power.
That's right. I think Democrats need to get used to talking about enforcement and the need to enforce strong borders. That's something that we did a lot.
President Obama used to do that.
That's exactly right. He talked about the need for strong borders. He talked about the need for people who come here to learn English. And that was a message that Democrats were comfortable with and rallied behind. And I think that's something that we need to get back to.
Gavin Newsom. What do you think of Gavin Newsom?
I think that Governor Newsom has a lot of the kind of fire that you would want to see in a potential presidential candidate. He also comes with a lot of baggage, being the governor of California. But yeah, I think what you want to see is somebody who knows how to take the fight to the other side.
He has been really going after Donald Trump. Do you think it's a good idea to mock Donald Trump the way that Donald Trump mocks everybody?
I think it's fine. It doesn't do it for me personally, but I don't have a problem with it. And I think more importantly, what you see him doing is you see him taking the fight to Republicans on things like redistricting. You see him being open to laws to build more housing in California that is really important to reverse the population flows. That state is losing people right now. He's really put an interesting issue set out there for himself. But what he's really done is demonstrated a willingness to take the fight to the other side. And that's something I think a lot of Democratic voters are going to find appealing. There is a lot of baggage being the governor for California. We're going to have to see how that balances out.
I'm wondering what who's he talking to when he puts up images like Donald Trump as Marie Antoinette with messages all in caps: peasants, shut up about your health care. Our Queen's ballroom will be almost as beautiful as her. Or Stephen Miller as Voldemort. Or Donald Trump at his taco bowl, resurfacing that image. Who's he talking to? Is he just firing up on social media, or is he convincing Trump voters that Trump is ridiculous? Is that what he's doing?
He's driving the conversation. I mean, we live in an attention economy where it's very hard to drive the conversation and to be the person that people are talking about. And we're sitting here talking about him on the terms that he's set. So I think a lot of it is just demonstrating an ability to be that driver of the conversation.
There's a lot of talk about AOC potentially as a presidential candidate. Bernie Sanders did pretty well, never quite got to be the nominee, but came very close. He generates a lot of enthusiasm across the country. In fact, I think a majority of younger Americans love the idea of, or at least like the idea of socialism that Bernie Sanders represents, AOC as well. If she were on the ticket, could she form a supermajority?
If she decided she wanted to, I think that she could.
Why?
I think something that someone like AOC could say is, look, I have my deeply held personal beliefs and you have yours. But in order to build a supermajority in this country, we need to be more accepting of people who differ from us on some beliefs. They could still agree with us on 70, 80% of issues, but we cannot cancel, we cannot cast out people just because they disagree on 2 or 3 issues. I think that kind of message coming from someone like her would really break through.
What about the baseline message? I mean, if it's going to be an AOC, doesn't the baseline message need to be we have to tax the rich? We have to tax billionaires? I mean, do all the Democrats have to sign on to a message like that in order to be a part of the Democratic Party if she is the face of it?
I think Democrats have historically been the party of economic populism, and they should never get away from those roots. I think that tax fairness and raising taxes on the wealthy and big corporations is an extraordinarily popular issue and is correct on the merits because a lot of corporations are out there getting away with a lot of nefarious behavior that needs to be cracked down upon. I don't think Democrats should stray from those core principles at all. And then they should use that money to try to get more benefits into the pockets of working people through expanding the social safety net and other programs that put benefits right into people's pockets.
Is democratic socialism kryptonite politically, that term?
I think, for someone like Sanders, it was probably a big reason why he couldn't quite break through. But I think that, most Democrats are not socialists. Most Democrats are, just, to the left economically. But, that is a very popular place to be. Most Americans are to the left economically.
What would Senator Harry Reid think about democratic socialism?
He would not be a socialist, but he would definitely want to tax the rich.
The Democratic Party has had a hard time just, I guess, expressing themselves, expressing what their values are, expressing what they believe in. Pushing back. Republicans are very good at messaging. They're very good at being blunt and simple with their messaging. And it's definitely had an appeal. You can totally disagree with the content of their message, as many Americans do. But enough of them look at Donald Trump and look at the Republican Party and hear them say, the system doesn't work. We are going to fix it. We're going to blow it up. And they sign on to that. The Democrats have a harder time with that because they end up being the defenders of a system that most Americans think is not working for them.
Yeah. Democrats have sort of weirdly found ourselves being polarized into the defenders of institutions, of experts, and the system. I think some of this is weirdly a post-COVID phenomenon where, in order to defend vaccines, we ended up finding ourselves becoming the defenders of big pharma in a strange way. And I think this is, defenders of experts who are giving scientific advice. But this is carried over into a lot of other walks of life where we find ourselves defending institutions for their own sake, not for what they do for working people. And I think that's something we need to break away from. We need to get more comfortable with people's willingness to tear down the system. We need to get comfortable with the idea of rethinking what government is for, who it serves, how efficient it can be. And these are all things that we haven't done historically as a party, at least in recent years, but we should get back to.
It's called schismogenesis. It's a new term that I learned. And it's the act of defining yourself against your opposite. So if Donald Trump is for tearing down the system, you are for building the system back up. And defining the Democratic Party has in the past 10 years largely been defining itself against Donald Trump. Everything that Donald Trump is for, they are not. Everything that Donald Trump is against, they are for. And that has led them to campaign on democracy, keeping democracy alive. Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. This has been quite a 10 months that Donald Trump has been in office, and a lot of people out there, experts in legal circles, former DOJ officials, constitutional experts will say that we are in a moment that is threatening democracy. How do the Democrats deal with that? Do they run on it? Do they ignore it?
So historically, the best way to defend democracy is to build a popular front. And building a popular front means building a big, broad coalition and linking arms with people who you have disagreements with on several major issues. That's what Democrats need to do. We shouldn't, to talk about defending democracy is one thing, but it's a very abstract issue. Most voters don't wake up every day thinking about the state of democracy. They wake up every day thinking about the state of their bank account. And to save democracy, we need to link arms with a broad cross-section of ideological allies and beat Republicans at the polls.
Right now, there's a shutdown. Who knows how long it's going to last? Maybe if you are watching this on YouTube, the shutdown will be over, and it'll be curious to see how it ends. Do you think it's justified, the Democratic Party forcing the government to shut down over health care?
I do, because Republicans control all three branches of government. They have the White House, and they have majorities in the House and Senate. If they wanted to fund the government, they could just do it themselves. If they want Democratic votes, traditionally the way you get those is to deal with the other side. And Democrats have a very important issue that they're asking Republicans to help them on, which is to avoid Americans' premiums going up, doubling, tripling in some cases next year. In a lot of ways, they're doing Republicans a favor because those premium hikes are going to come under unified Republican control. So if anybody should want to see those premium hikes not happen, it's Republicans. So I think it's an incredibly reasonable ask. Republicans should just come to the table.
You used to work for Senator Fetterman. Can you help me understand his vote to keep the government open, his vote with the Republicans on the continuing resolution?
I haven't talked to him about it, but I know that he generally opposes government shutdowns in principle. He thinks they're not worth it. So that's why he voted that way.
Schumer, is he the future of the Democratic Party? Does he need to step aside?
I think Senator Schumer has had an amazing career and an amazing legacy as Senate Majority Leader and Minority Leader sometimes. I think the party and the nation are very hungry for generational change. And I think something that Senator Reid did was decide not to run for re-election in 2016, to step down, to celebrate his own legacy and pass that on to the next generation. And I think that's something that should be taken very seriously.
Does the party broadly need fresh blood? I mean, there's a lot of people who have been representing states and cities and counties for a long time in Congress. A lot of them are on the older side for the Democratic Party.
I think broadly, the answer is yes. And the good news is that you're seeing that. You're seeing a lot of young candidates, a lot of unconventional candidates, a lot of working class candidates running in Democratic primaries and up for election in 2026. So I think that you're going to start to see some generational turnover in the Democratic Party in the next couple of years.
Who's your money on for 2028?
My money is on somebody who's not currently in the field, not a particular person. I just look on the field and I think, I have questions about a lot of the folks in the field. So I think it might be somebody from the outside who would surprise a lot of people.
All right. Adam Jenselson, Searchlight is the name of the think tank. Thank you so much for coming on and talking through the issues and where the Democratic Party needs to go. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Katie.